Imagine a day where children are guided and nurtured in a way that honors their unique humanness. A day where, instead of being expected to change in order to fit in, children can be met right where they're at. Welcome to Where They're Planted, a podcast for parents and care providers of unique children. Caring for a child with a developmental, emotional, or behavior challenge, a neurodiverse brain, or difficult early life experiences can be confusing and exhausting. On this podcast, we'll help your child flourish and strengthen their roots by helping you not only understand them, but also gain the skills to help them bloom where they're planted. We'll use brain science, nervous system tools, collaborative strategy sessions, and a deep understanding of the developmental process to create a fertile environment around your child in order to nurture their growth. I am your host, Jen Bluske, an occupational therapist with over 25 years of experience and a parent coach. My most closely held title, however, is that of a single mom of 2 thriving adopted kids, so I have walked this walk. I am truly excited to share, teach, and dive into these important topics on each episode. Welcome back to Where They're Planted. We are on episode 15 today, and I have to say that I am having so much fun doing this podcast. I love to be able to connect with you guys and share information through this space, and I'm so grateful for those who are listening and providing feedback on the show. If you are finding these topics useful, please share this podcast with friends and family. Also, if you would like and subscribe to the show, the work of supporting our children right where they're planted is so important, and I strive to get this information out to as many as possible. The topic of today's episode is anger and healthy aggression. It is a topic that I have been thinking about for so long and trying to come up with a way to frame on this show. In my work in the clinic and my work with parents, this topic of anger is just paramount to so much that we do, and so many reasons really why parents are seeking support, because anger is such really a charged emotion. So I want to start this conversation today by kind of reviewing some of the beliefs that we may consider when we think about anger, like the expression of anger. And something that I hear sort of over and over again is that anger is bad, right? Or we shouldn't express anger, or that if our kids are expressing anger, then they're not being good or not being respectful. The other thing, when I really think about some of these societal beliefs and maybe some beliefs that you were raised in as a parent, is this idea of shame around what we may feel as parents when maybe we're taught that expressing anger isn't okay. And when we sort of push it down, and inevitably what happens is eventually our anger bubbles up, right? It bubbles up and explodes, sometimes all over our kids or our relationships or our day. And then there's that shame loop of like, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to do that. The anger just got me out of nowhere. And today, what I want to spend a little bit of time doing in the context of supporting our kids right where they're at is really diving deep into the emotion of anger, the idea of healthy aggression, and how we as parents who are supporting our kids right through their developmental process, wherever they may be, can create not only a healthy relationship with anger for our kids, eventually adults who have some ability to have a healthy relationship with anger and express it in ways that actually fills the need that we were looking for, the reason the anger was expressed in the first place. So I want to pause and sort of take a step back and sit with what anger is. What anger is at its foundations is anger is a sensation. All of our emotions start through body sensations. Now, many of us as adults is sort of like dampen down or shut off those internal sensations that pop up when we're starting to have an emotion. So it kind of catches us off guard. But really, our neurobiology is created to give us cues. So, right, some of us might feel anger as like a burning in our stomach or an activation of our arms. So anger is a sensation that tells us that we have a need that's not being met and that we need to do something about it. Sometimes it comes out as a want, and sometimes that's a match for the need, and sometimes it's not. And we'll kind of get into that when we're talking about our kids. I want to give an example. So our kids might say something like, I want the ice cream cone, right? And we might have the flop on the floor and the tantrum, the meltdown. So the want might be, I want the ice cream cone. But the need underneath may be that the child's looking for a need for joy, or that they're looking for a need for autonomy. Autonomy is a big one. And so we might see the anger bubbling up, and we might be responding to the ice cream cone, right? You can't have an ice cream cone, you didn't eat lunch yet, or it's too much sugar, or, you were kind of persnickety leaving the park, and so I'm not going to give you a special treat right now, right? There's all these reasons. There's these cognitive reasons as adults that we might say no to the ice cream cone. And frankly, that's sort of our prerogative as parents. And it's the child's prerogative to express anger. And so we need to talk through how we do that and how we get our children who are born with the full array of emotions available to them and literally none of the skills to manage them. And that's where we get stuck a little bit. Another idea of an expression of anger and as it informs us of a need might be in an adult. I might say, I need you kids to sit down and eat your dinner quietly. Do not complain about your dinner I cooked, or dinner is over, right? We might feel a lot of anger popping up around these kids won't sit down and eat. So what's that need that's within us there? The external need is sit down and eat, or else bedtime's going to go horrible and it's going to continue to be chaos. There's about cognitive reasons. The need underneath the anger might be a need for peace. It might be a need for recognition. You just had a whole day of work and cooked a dinner and nobody's recognizing you. It might be a need for autonomy, right? When we're parents, our kids literally leech our energy off of us. And sometimes it's hard to feel that sense of I can be my own person separate from it. And so that anger that might be bubbling up in you as an adult, there's needs under that too. And so our anger is informing our need. Now, why do we care about this? When we're looking at kids, especially quintessential meltdown tantrums, digging their feet in the sand and saying, I am not going to do it, right? Why do we care about sort of fostering this healthier relationship with anger? Well, our anger also, as we move into adulthood, informs us if somebody's not treating us well, if somebody's crossed one of our boundaries. It informs us if we are at an edge of our capabilities, our sensory capabilities, our social capabilities, if we've sort of hit our edge of our threshold of we can't do anymore or be anymore. So our anger has really important, actually vital purpose in our world. It's meant to activate us. It's meant to create a shift in our world and how we engage with our environment. So it's powerful stuff. Anger is powerful when it's well regulated, understood, and used in order to create safety, change, connection. So, like I said before, children are born with the full range of emotions available to them. They come with anger and frustration and sadness and joy and all of the emotions. Our neurobiology gives us that. But we don't have the skills yet of what to do with the anger. We've talked about this classically a toddler tantrum. Frustration, anger, distress, angst. But really, what we need in order to move through it is regulation, self-reflection, communication, problem solving, in order for us to get the actual need met. So when we're parenting and when we're really parenting through the lens of meeting our child where they're at and not through the lens of maybe an expectation in order to make us comfortable, our main goal isn't actually to stop the anger for our kids or to control the anger. The challenge is we want to help our kids use anger, know it's safe in order to create change in their world and know how to understand how to get their needs met. So we need to be able to see and hear our children's anger. And now, I am not saying that means we give in to our children's anger by any means. I'm not saying that we placate our children's anger. I'm not saying that it's our job to make our kids feel happy when they're angry. Our job is to help them make sense of it, to help them make sense of the sensation of anger, and then have safety to know what to do about it so that they can move forward and get their needs met in their day. What that means as parents is we're holding space, we're setting boundaries, we're creating connection points and understanding, we're modeling language of communication, we're doing all of these things around the episode of anger in order to help the child to develop the skills in order to feel their anger in a healthy way. So when I work with parents in this realm, and oftentimes parents will come to me and say, I just don't know what to do. One little thing doesn't go right and we're angry for 20 minutes. Or I say something wrong and my child is angry and frustrated and stomping off and slamming the door. Or I feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time for fear of upsetting them. Okay. So those are cues to me that there's sort of a mismatch. There's a mismatch in some skills around anger and probably a mismatch in reading of when anger is popping up. So the first step that I think about, if you listen to this podcast before, there's often a step that is self-reflective towards the parent, is how, as a parent of supporting our kids through their anger, bounces off our own needs as a parent and our own experiences of anger. So for a lot of us, again, who are raising kids ages about 6 to, 20, that it was sort of socialized into us, especially if you're socialized as a female, where there's implicit and explicit messages that we were not to express anger, that we were to be good and kind and nice. And so if, as you're listening, you have some self-reflection and like, ooh, right, around that for yourself, give yourself a little bit of compassion. You were never taught how to explore anger. The beautiful thing as an adult is we have the ability to go back and learn this stuff. We're in an adult brain now. We have the ability to shift and change our response. The challenge, if we were sort of socialized not to feel anger, is that our nervous system still tags it. It's still there. Our neurobiology is wired to have the full range of emotions, anger being one of them. What do a lot of us do? We stuff it, right? Nope, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm not upset. We maybe give in to abate the anger. Oh, just let him do what he wants. It's fine. It's no big deal. We hold tight onto our thoughts in our bodies. Like, I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just not going to think about how frustrated I am that that person cut me off in the parking lot. We hold it tight so as not to let it out. The trick is we can't just hold it in. Anger is an activating force. It is intended to move out and through our bodies. It's meant to energize. It's meant to create activity and action in order to keep us safe. It's a force to meet our needs, which is inherently a safety mechanism for us all. And so sometimes this might then in ourselves come out as rage, right? I mean, I would imagine there's not one parent listening, and myself included, who hasn't sort of flipped and said something to your kids that you just didn't mean to say. Or, we might act in an aggressive way that, while keeping our kids physically safe, creates a clear message that anger equals somebody being incredibly unregulated and rageful, and that therefore it's not safe for our nervous system. So those patterns of I express anger and then my attachment figure either expresses anger back and creates a situation that is tagged as unsafe, or my attachment figure puts me in a room and disconnects from me, teaches me that anger isn't safe. So I want you guys to take just a little bit of time today, tomorrow, the next week, and just really consider, like, what is your relationship with anger? I know when I was doing this work in parent coaching, and we got to really talking about anger, it occurred to me that I had no idea how to express anger in a healthy way until the moment where, like, I hit too much threshold and I had stuffed it down too long, and then out it popped. Or I stuffed it, and we know that our bodies are going to let it out. We have research that shows that our bodies are going to express unresolved emotion through physical pain or through other physical symptoms that have kind of nothing to do with the physicality of the body. And so to think through for yourselves, what your relationship to anger is, and can you sit in it and be curious about it as an adult, which is what we're trying to help our kids learn to do. And so step one is sort of doing this work back on ourselves and saying, gosh, when I'm feeling angry, can I be like, pretty angry because I need some space and I need to feel like I have some choice as a parent, and I need to feel some appreciation, recognition as a parent. Oh, those are needs that I have that just aren't getting met right now, which is really common when you're a parent, especially a parent of a young child. And so how does this bounce then off how we help our kids? How does this bounce off when our child shows up to us with the emotion of anger? What do we do? How do we support building skill in order to help our children have that healthy relationship so that they can self-regulate, self-reflect, communicate the underlying need, problem solve, maybe create a boundary as an adult? What we do are a few things. First, we do our own work as parents, right? And so if this is really sitting deeply for you, this is the time to go seek out some sort of therapist or coach if there's deep-seated patterns from childhood. It's the time to think that through if you're feeling a little bit stuck. What we do is we start slowly and in control. If we have shut our anger off, shut our ability to reflect on it off, we start turning it on. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean you get to walk around being angry at the world, okay? That's not functional. But what it means is noticing for yourself, like, man, that really made me mad. We have curiosity and compassion for when we're annoyed, and that's not what everybody else is doing to you. That's not a healthy relationship with anger. Anger is, what do I need right now? What do I need? What's happening for me? Right? Our kids are gonna push our buttons all day, every day. Our kids are going to be disrespectful, say mean things, not use kind words, not listen. That's the job of a child. That might create anger in us, but the curiosity as to the why isn't, if my child would just listen, I wouldn't be angry. It might be, I'm feeling really unheard so much of my day because I'm raising this kiddo right now who is developmentally in a place that they're not able to focus and listen. So we got to do something about that. But my anger is mine to deal with. We begin to explore with, how do we actually meet our own needs? Is that finding, 1 minute in the car before you get home from work? Actually, this is one of the strategies I use in parent coaching quite a bit, to create peace for yourself before you walk into the chaos of the nighttime routine. How do we think about, I have a need right now. I have a need for recognition. I have a need for peace. I have a need for understanding, right? A lot of those come through connection. And this is connection with adults, healthy connection with adults. So that's the first step we do. Now, this is a long, long, long process. If you haven't ever felt anger in that way before, or have been sort of taught through your experiences that anger is not safe, this idea of turning it on and like kind of looking it in the face can be incredibly scary. And so here's the beautiful thing. you also have then the ability to turn it off. You don't have to turn it all the way on, but you can start just like playing with, oh man, what is it like if I meet a need of mine? I remember this happened in my parenting when I was going through the anger learning in my parent coaching work. And one of my kids did something that, made me really angry, right? Which happens as parents. And I remember for the first time being like, I'm really angry. I'm really angry because my voice is just not being heard. And I'm not getting any sort of recognition for the work I'm doing. And what that did for me is it shifted everything because it let me go ahead and get my own need met. It's not my kid's job to meet my need. It was mine. And in that, I was then able to set a boundary with my child around, you know what? Right now, this conversation isn't working. And what that boundary did is it not only allowed me to get my need met, but it started teaching my child how to set boundaries in order to get needs met. It was pretty transformative. The second thing that we do in this idea of how do we start thinking about anger in a different way? How do we move our kids towards something that's a little bit more healthy and towards gaining those skills? Is we explore with something called healthy aggression. I've talked about how anger needs to be moved through the body, right? It's not something that's meant to be stable or solid. Anger is intended to move, intended to have action. And so one of the ways is to literally move it through your system. Like, what do our toddlers do when they're angry? They hit, they bite, right? And that's not what we want, right? That's something we're trying to change to create skill around, but they're activating. Many of us, when we're really frustrated, we might slam the table. That is anger trying to activate. That in that moment isn't healthy aggression, but it's aggression. And so then how do we create healthy aggression to move it through? What is healthy aggression? It's any sensory motor movement that's getting something out of your body. This is singing, screaming. This is dancing. This is for our adults who really seek out intense physical labor, right? When I'm angry, you're going to find me mowing the lawn or pulling weeds or chopping bushes. I need that physicality to sort of move it through. This is people who do workout routines, or when they're really upset, they go for a long walk. It's something to activate out of our bodies. Now, I also know a lot of parents where this hasn't been part of their practice. And a lot of the time it's because anger has really been shut down in them. And so a lot of parents tend to be, and frankly, a lot of our kids, when they feel anger, kind of put themselves into what we call a functional freeze. We talked about that many, many episodes back in the polyvagal, the regulation episodes. The functional freeze is shutting down, right? So this is that zoning out to your phone. This is that repetitive eating, like that's not tied into hunger cues. This is that numbing the sensation of anger. And so sometimes as we come out and begin to activate again, these are just itty bitty baby steps. I know I had one parent one time where activating was really actually a little bit uncomfortable for their system, where we literally just went to get the mail. We'd walk down the driveway, or we just sometimes step outside. Or sometimes I have parents take a straw and blow bubbles in whatever they happen to be drinking. Just that activating of moving it out can be really small, and that's okay. That's a great place to start. Each of our nervous systems and each of our sensory systems are going to need a different level of intensity. And so your level of intensity might just be something little, whereas, your co-parent's level of intensity might be, I need to go do a 10-mile run. And so everybody's gauge is a little bit different, but it's the action. Let's focus on our kids for a minute. I spent a lot of time talking about us as parents because we are the models of healthy relationship with anger. We are the ones who are modeling all the time what we do with anger. In our kids, we honor the anger as legitimate emotion. We see their anger. We start to help them understand that underlying need. Now, interestingly, when we honor anger and when we help them understand their underlying need and they're in an experience of anger, a lot of times they're going to push back. No, I'm not. I don't want to do that. That's not what I feel. Go away. All we're doing is noticing. We're not getting their agreement. We don't need their agreement. We're showing them, I see you. We might get it a little bit wrong, but I see you and I'm here. I see your experience and I'm here. And then we set boundaries to create containers for the anger to be expressed and expelled through healthy aggression. So the boundaries might be, man, you're really mad. It looks like you need some space from your sister because you're hitting them. We're going to move over here and you can be angry over here with this pillow. I'm not saying calm down, stop hitting your sister, play nice. I mean, that's the end goal. But the step to that is I see your anger. I see that you're needing to express it. I see you need space. Okay, let me help you with that. And then we can eventually work towards the problem solving of the need. Problem solving of the need might be when you and your sister are playing with this kind of toy, I notice that you really, really, really want to be in charge. It's just really tricky. And then that makes you feel really angry because you're not getting to be in charge enough. I think when you guys are playing with this toy, maybe we do one at a time. And when your sister's playing with it, I'm going to help you do this instead. We're going to go play this other toy, right? Or we might create some structure around the play. Or we might teach some communication skills to our child, depending on where they are developmentally, where their skill set are, if they have a neurodivergent brain who's maybe seeing things in a little bit of a different way than our neurotypical brain. We're going to problem solve, not in the moment of anger, but as a way of helping understand how to get our needs met when we're regulated and calm. So our kids' anger isn't ours to fix. I do this a lot with parents when I'm in parent coaching, and this idea that when our kids are angry, it's so distressing for us that we're just trying to fix it. And it's not ours to fix. It's our job to set the boundaries. It's our job to ensure safety, healthy aggression, right? It's our job to take care of ourselves, but it's not necessarily our job to fix the anger. Anger is just an emotion that's coming through our bodies. Our kids' anger might be outwardly directed at us. This one is really tricky. The I hate yous, or you're the worst parent in the world, or the hand up with the toy, like I'm going to throw this at you, any of a number of things. However, our responses are what give our kids those really important lessons about what expression of anger means. Every time, especially when kids are really young, most experiences are tagged as a lesson of how to be in the world. And so when our child might direct anger at us, if we respond in kind and match it with anger, that is teaching them that the way to get your need met is to get bigger and more aggressive in the world. If we placate it, it's okay, sweetie, here, let me get you a popsicle and make you happy. It teaches our kids that a way to get a need met is to express anger in that way, right? It's sort of like a 1-2. We're not helping them learn to meet their need. We're just quieting it. Third is if we ignore it altogether. So then there's this bubbling up of a sensation. There's this need that needs to be met, and my caregiver isn't able to figure out what my need is. Therefore, I can't figure out what my need is. So how do we acknowledge this anger then? Let me break it into parts. There's 3 parts. There's the emotion that they're expressing. There's our best guess of the underlying want, the underlying need. And then there's actually the activity of expression of anger, the aggression, the outward expression. The emotion they're experiencing, we just honor. We honor emotion every time, all the time. Yeah, you're really mad. I get it. You're super, super mad. I honor that for you. The best guess of the underlying need, we might do verbally out loud to them. And for some of our kids, we might do quietly internally to ourselves and then step in and support it. Now, a want is sometimes a need, but not always. So our kids who want screen time 24 hours and get angry about, I want more screen time, that's not quite a need, right? The need might be, I need calm, I need peace, I'm trying to shut down my overwhelmed system, I need my dopamine hit. There might be some other needs under that. But just because they want the electronics doesn't mean we give them the electronics. We might give other activity, other tool in order to meet the need. Now, in the moment of the chaos and the anger in a really dysregulated system, we're not going to be throwing these supports at the kids. We're going to be doing what we did in the Meltdown episode and holding space. But now we as parents have clues. Oh, we need more connection. Oh, we need more movement. Oh, we need more XYZ. And then we give kids tools of what healthy aggression looks like and where the edges are, right? This is the kids who are like, crashing and banging and wanting to fling and bump and hit things. Each parent is going to have a different threshold for this. And as part of your value system are going to have different things that they're willing to allow their kids to do, but they're not willing to allow their kids to do. And that's reasonable and fine. And all kids need the experience of healthy aggression. So this is the big, powerful play that kids do. This is the pretend fighting, the pretend wrestling that kids do. Through play, we can learn where the edges of a healthy aggression is when I'm in control of it, I'm not hurting anybody, I'm able to express an emotion without, disrespect or any of those other things. That's where healthy aggression lies in kids. Unhealthy aggression is I don't have control over it. I'm actively hurting something or somebody, right? There's unhealthy aggression. Kids need to practice with healthy aggression in order to know how to get anger out of their system. It's funny because as I was planning this podcast tonight, I was thinking we're about to do water week at our clinic here, and all the kids who come in for services show up and we play in the water and we play with, the little balls that you fill up with water and throw at each other and the squirters and, all of the things. And this is the week that often a lot of healthy aggression comes out in kids. And it's interesting how much time we spend in this week of really big play supporting parents through what healthy aggression is and why it's so important, and how we help kids find those edges so that when they're adults, they know where the edges are through healthy aggression. And so I know today I gave so much content. I know I gave a lot of things to think about in the world of anger and some beginning to-dos of how to maybe reframe what to think about when you're seeing anger in your kiddos or when you're feeling that anger in yourself. And so, as always, this is just information. It's something to think about. Try a few things, see how it feels, reflect back a little bit on yourself, reflect back on what you're seeing in your kids with a different lens. And hopefully, we can find a way to create some safety in anger in our relationships. I think I'll leave it there. I also wanted to talk real quick. Our next episode on Where They're Planted is going to be our first Q&A. I am utterly excited for this. This is the entire reason I wanted to start the podcast, is because I wanted to be able to talk about in a way that a lot of people get to hear the questions that parents come with, the real life questions, with a little bit of context around the specific kid and, some more specific strategy for specific questions and specific families. And so I anticipate doing a Q&A session every 2 or 3 episodes for you guys, because I know that at least families who come in through our clinic and call in and do our intake, they're usually, I need some hard and fast strategies now. And I want to be able to offer those for you guys. And so, as always, you are welcome. And I encourage you to write in with questions you have. I am also looking forward eventually to having parents on in a confidential sort of way in order to be able to problem solve with parents. And I think that the power of problem solving in this modality will actually help a lot of parents. And so next time we will do a Q&A. If you have a question or want a clarification or say, I need you to say more about this, write in. I will leave the link in the show notes for that. And I'm excited to be answering some questions. All right. Thanks so much. If you like what you heard today, check out our Empowered Parent Coaching course offered through Thriving Parents Collective. In this course, you will get videos and course content to help you learn and develop the strategies you seek to meet your child right where they're at. Go to the show notes for the link. Where They're Planted is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Jen Bluske. Music is by Gaston Reen and Pod 5. thank you for loving your child right where they're planted.